Now, this is a car that so many people dream of owning. So many young lads will have this as one of their poster cars. I know that when I was young, I really wanted a BMW M4 or an M6. So why is it when I first took delivery of this car, I wasn't a massive fan? Well, the first thing is, and I'm pretty sure pretty much all BMW M4 owners can agree with me on this really doesn't sound great. And I said that in the first video, and to be honest, I still stand by it now. Stock, these sound terrible. Now, the other big thing I wasn't a massive fan of when I first drove this car was actually the steering. Now, that sounds a little bit controversial because BMW M cars are typically known for having absolutely fantastic handling. And this car in particular, I'd watched reviews and everyone said that it handled absolutely fantastically. But when I first drove the car, I felt as if the steering felt a little bit too light for me. I'm not really sure if that is because my personal car is a Jaguar F-Type, and the Jaguar F-Types have relatively not stiff steering, but firm steering, and you can feel everything in the road. Whereas this, when you turn the steering wheel, it is very light and almost effortless. And the biggest problem for me was it really didn't make me feel that connected with the road, if that makes sense. But overall, I think the most disappointing thing for me was the kind of excitement that I got when driving this car. When I first saw the car, I thought, wow, that looks pretty incredible, and still, you know, it looks great. After watching so many people review this car, I think when I initially drove it, I was a bit disappointed. It didn't really feel as special as everyone made it out to be. You know, this is meant to be one of BMW's flagship cars, and I think the biggest thing for me when I first drove this car was, for being so expensive, the retail price on this car, pretty much fully loaded, it's got almost everything, would have probably been around £100,000. But when I first drove the car and I was thinking, you know, if I bought this car brand new at £100,000, would I be happy with it? I'm not really sure. Just overall, it did not feel like £100,000 car. Because, you know, if you get to £100,000, that's when you're talking like almost supercar money, especially in the used market. You can definitely buy supercars for that kind of money. So then, to get to the question, after 3 months of actually driving this car, there are quite a lot of things that I have grown to like. So I think the best thing to do is go for a quick drive and talk you through them. You know what? I was gonna drive with the roof up because it's so cold, but I think it just looks a lot better if I had the roof down for you guys. So I'm gonna suffer, but the things I do for the tubes. Yeah, now. It's just so fast. The handling in this car. When I first drove it, like I said, I thought it was relatively light, and I said that I felt pretty disconnected from the road. It's not something that has changed massively, but I would say it's something that I've gotten used to. I just think because I'm coming from my Jaguar F-Type, it's quite a bit of a change. You know, my car is 8 or 9 years old now. My car is 8 or 9 years old now, so the technology in it is relatively old now. Whereas in this, you know, this is brand new technology, the best of the best that the M Sport division from BMW have. When you drive this car, it does feel very modern. Not just the technology that's inside it, but the way that it actually drives. You can feel the technology in the car. I would say at faster speeds, the handling feels more direct. Now, I'm in the M1 mode now, which has been programmed to be the most sporty of everything. So sporty acceleration, sporty gearbox, sporty handling. And it does feel like an absolute weapon. It is so fast. That is one thing that didn't have to grow on me. I already loved it when I first drove the car, is just how fast it is. So yeah, the handling is something that I've really gotten used to. You know, I've still been daily driving my F-Type as well, so switching in between this and the F-Type, two very different cars. You know, when you're going around the city in this, the light steering does come in quite handy, whereas in the F-Type it is a little bit more of a an effort to make a tight turn at slow speeds. But one thing that I've learned about driving this car and really kind of hooning it a bit is when you are going at faster speeds and making turns in this car, the steering does actually fill you with quite a lot of confidence. And you know, for a car that goes this fast, that confidence is something you're going to want in the steering. I can imagine if you have this car out on track, the handling would really come into its own. But yeah, I can see why they've made it quite a bit lighter as time has gone on. You know, it's made this car so daily drivable, so easy to live with, which actually brings me onto my next point, is how comfortable this car is. For a car that is just as fast as most supercars these days, it is so very comfortable and practical as well. Obviously we're in the convertible, so this doesn't have the bucket seats. This has the comfort seats, and I must say they are actually very comfortable. I can imagine going on a long haul drive for many hours and not being uncomfortable in this. I haven't sat in the bucket seats, but I have seen reviews where people can say they can do, you know, maybe 45 minutes an hour tops, but a few hours trip would probably be too long. But this, to drive around in every day, is so comfortable. Along with the suspension, which is actually something that surprised me quite a bit. The suspension in this car is not as firm as I thought it would be. I've got it in the firmest setting, but it's really not as harsh as I thought a car as fast as this would be. My F-Type is, like I said, relatively old now, but the suspension in that, when you put it in dynamic mode, is very firm. And it does feel like it's on rails, whereas this, it doesn't feel like it's on rails, but it still doesn't take away from the confidence that you have in the car, if that makes sense. Like, I could still absolutely rag this around loads of corners and know it's gonna hold its own. Whereas, like, if you've driven a Tesla Model 3 Performance, you know, that feels like a go-kart. This doesn't have that feeling. This feels like it's got a little bit of a waft about it, if that makes sense. But it also, like I said, it makes it very comfortable to live with on a day-to-day basis. It is just absolutely blisteringly quick. Oh my god. It really does put a smile on your face, but I would say you would have to be going over the legal speed limit to do that. Oh god. Some of the things that I've really grown to love about this car is the creature comforts. And my number one favorite thing in this car, which is coming in very handy right now as it's freezing, is the heated steering wheel. I would absolutely make sure that that is, I think it's probably on the spec list. I don't know if it comes standard, but I would say that is a must-have when you're speccing up this car. So just a few things that I want to touch on that I really do like about this car is, number one, carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber.
However, one thing that I really do not like about this car is the shift paddles. Now, I do like the fact that they are carbon. However, I don't like this red on the back. I feel it's a little bit tacky. But I don't like the way that they feel, like the tactility of them, especially when you're driving. It just doesn't really feel engaging. It feels a little bit more like a toy, like, you know, the sim kind of paddles that you get when you're playing like Gran Turismo. It feels like one of them. And it doesn't really feel engaging, whereas, for example, on the F-Type, it's got a nice click to it. This, I really don't like this click. On the Aston, it's got this beautiful, like, metal, like when you hit them, it makes like a nice dink sound. Yeah, not a fan of these ones. Something that I have really grown to love is the charger for your phone. Really convenient. Slot it in there and then took it away. However, one thing that has really annoyed me and I've had to get used to is when I get out of the car, I completely forget that that's in there. So I walk away from the car and then got to come open it and pick it up. I do like the ambient lighting of the car. However, I feel like Mercedes do it a lot better. And then one of my favorite things about all BMWs is the Harman Kardon sound system. I think these are some of the best sound systems I've heard. Like I had these in my old BMW and I feel like that was one of the best sound systems I've heard. And I'm pretty sure this is probably the exact same, if not a very similar sound system, but it just sounds really, really good. One thing that I'm not a massive fan of in this car is when you go in sport mode. Not really a massive fan of that. And one thing I'm definitely not a massive fan of is that heads-up display, because it really protrudes and it gets in your way when you're looking. It's actually quite distracting, like especially when the revs are up. It's just not great to look at. It's like it's really in your way and it distracts you from looking at the road. So when I drive, I'll drive like this, just in the normal mode, but with the M button pressed, and you can see that the heads-up display is a lot smaller. And I actually sit low enough so that I can't see it. I'd rather not see it. If I was to spec one of these cars, I would not spec the heads-up display personally. One thing that I really do like is the rev limiter that it gives you on startup. So when you start the car up on a cold start, it'll actually limit the car to like, I think it's 3,000 revs for the first couple of minutes. And then as you drive on, it'll slowly allow you to have more revs as the engine warms up. And I just think that's a really clever thing to have in modern day sports cars, supercars, that stops you from basically wrecking the engine. Then one of the last creature comforts that I've really grown to love is the M buttons. Like I said before, you can code them or you can program them to have your preferred settings. So, if you want to waft along, have it in quiet and comfortable mode, you can have that in the M2 button. And then as soon as you want to go stupidly fast and race supercars if you want, you can smash that M1 button and go hardcore mode. One thing that I was really impressed with from this car, which I actually haven't used much because, to be honest, I don't have any real use for it, is the track mode and being able to put this car in rear wheel drive only. Now I can imagine if you're on a track and you want to do some silly little drifts or something, having that option is going to be really fun. And to be able to have the best of both worlds, an X-Drive car or a four-wheel drive car and a rear-wheel drive car. 10 years ago, I didn't really think that would be possible, but to have that in sports cars these days is actually very exciting. The four-wheel drive system in this car is really, really good. From a speed perspective, I don't know what it's like in terms of, in the winter, in the ice. Is it going to grip? Don't really know. I guess we'll find out if it gets cold enough here soon. But in terms of going fast, this X-Drive system definitely serves its purpose. Now what I will conclude with is what I touched on in the last video is, should you buy one of these cars brand new? I mean, if you've got the money and you can afford losing 30, 40 grand in a couple of years, go for it. But if you're just a mere peasant like me, I would only ever buy one of these secondhand with a few thousand miles on the clock. You can pick these up now for anywhere from the high 40s to 60 grand and you'll find a decent example. If you're getting them at that price point, I think it is a good purchase. Over the last 3 months, I have started to appreciate just how unbelievably well put together and fast this car is. This is a supercar slayer really from factory. I think if you're picking one of these up at that price point, you've got a pretty good deal. However, for that price point, you can still get something with a lot more character, which obviously will be a little bit older. It's my preference that if I buy a car, I want to be smiling every single time that I drive it. I don't necessarily feel special when I drive this car, if that makes sense. Whereas there's other cars that you can pick up for the same price and it will feel a lot more special. So then, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Some of you BMW M4 owners, tell me your thoughts on what I said. I'm thinking I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for some of the things that I've said about this car. Please feel free to leave a comment. Would love it if you hit the like button, and please do subscribe, and I'll see you next time.